What's up guys, welcome back to another video on Pure Panorama. As you can see, we did get a new package in for the truck, and that package was in fact finally a gauge set. This truck has needed gauges now for quite a while so that I could monitor things like the exhaust gas temps, the boost, the fuel pressure, and I need to get one still for the transmission temperature, but that will come later on down the road. For right now, I got the three that I feel, the transmission I feel is more important than the boost, but the fact that we are going to be swapping the turbo on the truck, I wanted to get a boost gauge for right now, and when I get into changing the fluid and all that stuff on the transmission, then we'll go ahead and get a trans temp gauge as well, and we'll get that thing set up so we'll have the 4 gauges ready to rock and roll. So that is going to be a project that is going to be coming up here soon on the channel. I'm actually looking under the hood right now in the engine bay and planning my attack for getting these things hooked up and wired in. So I am going to go over real quick what I got and where things are going to hook up and what my thoughts are, because I think I may want to do something actually a little bit different with the fuel pressure gauge. They're telling me to hook it up in one spot, but my mind is telling me to hook it up in another, so we're going to go over that in a second. So not that you can see it all that well, but the pod will sit up in here just like so. And the only thing that I am not a super huge fan of with this pod is the fact that it is a black pod. And as you can see, my dash and my pillars are actually gray. So I wasn't able to get my hands on well, I could have got a gray pod, but this actually came in a package and came as a whole kit, and I couldn't find one that came with a gray pod. And the other downfall is, you can see this has an extra hole right there next to that lower hole for the bottom gauge, and that is for the set of tweeters that come in some of these trucks. And as you can see over there on my passenger side A-pillar, I do not have the tweeters. So I am gonna have an open hole right there, and we're gonna have to do something about that. My thoughts are, obviously we can always switch over and put in a gray pillar pod later on down the road. Not that it really is gonna make too big of a deal if we have a black gauge pod in the truck. I could always use the hole here that is meant for the tweeter to use and try and, I don't know. I'm thinking about maybe trying to figure out a way to just mount a switch in there for things like light bars and fog lights that are down in the front of the truck, or a set of work lights that I would have in the back of the truck. The reason I did pull the trigger on this kit, even though the pod was black and had the tweeter hole in it for the speaker, was because I thought the truck needs gauges more than it doesn't, and a black pillar pod is not gonna be that big of a deal. I would rather have a pod that didn't match the truck than no gauges at all, because I've gone long enough without gauges now and not knowing what my fuel pressure or anything like that is, and it's driving me nuts. I need to know what those are and what those numbers are reading. It's very, very important to do that, and I have put it off long enough. If you guys have one of these trucks, or any diesel truck for that matter, gauges are a necessity, and it should be one of the first things, and a lift pump, that you should do, especially on these 98.5 to 02 Dodge Cummins 24 valve trucks. They absolutely need a lift pump and a set of gauges as your first mod. So I'm not going to get into opening the box or anything right now, but I will show you through this little window that they have on the front. You can see on the right we have our fuel pressure gauge, and I did decide to go with black faced gauges, and these can light up in 7 different colors. Obviously I will probably just run the green color so it matches the rest of my dashboard. If I do run any other color, it would be red to go with the theme of the truck a little bit. But then in the middle we have our EGT gauge, and all the way over here on the left is our boost gauge. Now I did have these gauges out of this box once, and I gotta say, everybody talks down and talks so much crap about glow shift, calling them glow shits and stuff like that, but when I had these out, guys, they did not feel cheap or chintzy or anything like that. Now, I've never held an ISPRO EV2 gauge in my hand, but I can tell you for the price of them, I'm sure you're getting a little bit better quality and stuff like that, but this is my first set of gauges, and the reason I went with glow shift is because I could get this whole package as one unit for far less than it would have cost me to get two, yes, two ISPRO EV2 gauges. I'm trying to watch what I'm spending, and I'm doing all this stuff on a budget, and I've put these gauges off for far too long, and it's really bothered me that I haven't been able to monitor my fuel pressure. As you know, we are going to be doing the VP44 here soon, and I do believe that we're going to have to do some stuff with the actual Fast Platinum 150 lift pump that I have on the truck, like replace the motor that's on that, because I don't think that we are getting the fuel pressure that we need. So these next two bags right here are actually for the fuel pressure gauge. As you can see here, we have a little 90-degree fitting, and we have a banjo bolt with two crush washers. So this, they're saying to mount underneath the fuel filter housing, the stock fuel filter housing on the truck. So they're telling you to pull the banjo bolt from that feed line that runs from the bottom of the fuel filter house up to the VP44. They say to pull that out and then stick this banjo bolt up through there, and then you'll take this snubber valve and you'll screw this into the banjo bolt, and then put this little 90 off of the snubber valve, and then you can put your fuel pressure sensor into the 90 once all of that is connected and stuck into the bottom of the fuel pressure or the fuel filter housing. So if we walk around here to the engine bay, we'll show you that the fuel filter housing is right down in here, and obviously the bottom of it is buried under a bunch of lines and stuff like that, so I would have to move some stuff out of the way to get to it. But I don't want to run it off of the fuel filter housing, because from there, yes, it's very close to the VP44, and that is a good spot to run your fuel pressure, because it's way downstream from your lift pump after your fuel has pushed itself all the way up here to the engine. So you're getting a pretty good and accurate reading as far as what your fuel pressure is right before it goes to the VP44. And that's basically what you want. You don't want to run your fuel pressure. I mean, you can run another fuel pressure gauge back at your lift pump so that you know what it is at the pump, but you do want to have one, I feel, up here closer to the VP44 on these trucks, so that you know what the pressure is going into the VP44. But the reason I don't want to go into the bottom of the fuel filter housing is A, it's going to be harder to get to if I ever have to service it or do anything. Harder to get to just to hook it up and connect it. And B, I just got out of kindergarten yesterday. But C, there's still a line that comes off of the bottom of the fuel filter housing and then runs up here to the bottom, or into your VP44, and that is your feed line right there to the VP44. As you can see, come on camera, focus for me, boy. As you can see right here, this is my BD low fuel pressure warning light kit right there, and that's going into the banjo bolt for the feed line on the VP44. So I don't see why I can't just do away with that whole low fuel pressure warning light system right there, and then take my banjo bolt and snubber valve and all that I got with the fuel pressure gauge and stick it right back through this feed line into the VP44 and take the fuel pressure reading directly from the VP44. I think that is the best spot right there to get your fuel pressure reading. That way you know exactly what your fuel pressure is reading at as it goes into the VP44, and you'll know 100% if it gets below the number that it shouldn't be below, which is 10 psi, I believe, at wide open throttle, and you want it up around 17 or 18 to 20 psi when you fire the truck up and at idle. And then as you get into it, obviously it's going to drop, but you do not want to see it go below 10 psi. And if it gets below 5 psi, we have issues. You don't want that. That means that it's starving the VP44. It's not going to cool it off properly, it's not going to lubricate it properly, and eventually the VP is going to die and fail on you because it's not getting efficient fuel. So in this last bag right here is a boost bolt adapter. Now obviously this is for your boost gauge, which is right here in this box, and I'm going to show you what that boost bolt adapter is and where it goes right now. So usually when you hook up your boost gauge, what you're going to do is you're going to drill and tap into your intake horn somewhere up here on the top or on the back side of it, and you're gonna go ahead and hook up your fittings and your boost line and run it all through the firewall to the rest of the gauge pod and hook it all up. Bada bing, bada boom, done. You get in your boost reading. What that boost bolt adapter does is you actually take out this bolt right there. So that bolt right there you take out, and that boost bolt adapter goes into that on your intake plenum, and then you go ahead and you hook up your boost line into that boost bolt adapter instead of having to drill and tap into your stock intake horn. I think that that's pretty cool. That's a pretty neat thing, and I think it's gonna save some time and just be a better thing for us to do. I won't have to drill and tap into this. I can keep it whole, and when we get a new intake horn, obviously we can go ahead and remove the boost sensor from this and plug this back up with this stock bolt that's in there, and then we can hook the boost gauge up to the aftermarket intake horn. And then obviously everybody knows that the EGT gauge, you're gonna drill and tap right here into your exhaust manifold. So that's it with the 3 gauges that I got right now. We got the pod, we got everything we need, the boost bolt adapter, snubber valve, banjo bolts, all that good stuff, everything that we need to get these things set up. And obviously in the box with the gauges, you have your sensors and your boost line and all that stuff, so you can get everything hooked up. And the last thing that I actually have is a 3-gauge wiring harness that came in the kit, and this is basically so that you can jump every wire from these gauges together, and then you have one set of wires that you can run down into your fuse box over there on the left side of your dash where you open up your driver's door. That's where this will run into to get your power, and then you'll run one of them up to your headlight switch, and that will give you a 30% dim on the gauges at night when you have your headlights on, so that the gauges aren't super bright and shining like crazy in the cab. So that's how that's going to hook up, and we will go over everything, like I said, when we hook it all up, and show you exactly where I mount everything, how we're doing it, and give you that good install video. So I hope you guys are as pumped as I am to get these gauges installed on the truck. It's been such a long time since I've had this thing and it hasn't had gauges. Obviously, I could pay attention to the fuel pressure a little bit, and I would know if it was below 5 psi if that BD low fuel pressure alarm light came on, and it has come on a couple times. That's why I think we do have a slight issue with our fuel pressure, or the lift pump I should say, and may have to replace the motor on the Fast Platinum later on down the road. It might be something good to just replace anyways when we do the VP44, so that everything is just fresh and new, and we know we're getting a good supply of fuel up to that new VP44, so that hopefully it will have the longest lifespan possible. But we are going to be getting these gauges on the truck towards the end of the week, and the video will come out this weekend, so keep your eyes peeled for that. If you have a 98.5 to 02 24 valve Cummins, fuel pressure is a must. You need that gauge, and it can't hurt to just get a kit like this. For what I spent on it, it's worth it, man. It is very, very worth it for what you get, and it definitely saves you a little bit of cash from going with the ISPROs. Granted, the ISPROs might be a little bit better, like I said. I don't care at this point. I just need to get gauges on the truck, and I'm trying to do other things with it as well, and trying to spend wisely. So hit that like button if you're pumped up for the gauge install video that will be coming out this weekend, when we finally get to go and install these things on here and then see what our readings are. I'm kind of scared to actually see what everything is telling me once we get them installed, but we have to face it and we have to see what they say and where everything's at, so that we can correct things that need to be corrected. So that's going to be coming this weekend. I hope you guys are pumped up, because I am pumped up. If you're stopping in for the first time and you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Like I said, gauge install video coming this weekend. We have the HX35 that we are working on, trying to get ready to put on the truck, and a whole bunch of other things that are coming down the line here to do with the truck. VP44, all this crap. Oh man, it's stressing me out. There's so many things that need to get done, but we will get to it. It's all coming. Hit that subscribe button. You're not going to want to miss it. Share your wealth of knowledge down in the comment section for myself and everyone else to run with and use on their Cummins trucks or diesel trucks in general, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!